Hello everyone, it is Marc Sabatella from Mastering MuseScore, and I would like to welcome you to the MuseScore Café. So for those of you who are new, welcome. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. This is my weekly series that I have been doing now for 5 years. 5 years, 5 years this week or next week, depending on how you calculate the date, is the anniversary of this particular live stream. And we're going to be using this as sort of an opportunity to take a look back, also to kind of assess where we are now, and talk a little bit about the future. So let me, I have to redo my pinning of my chat. There we go. Now I can see y'all here. Yay. Yes, this is going to be a nice kind of retrospective and look ahead. So we'll get to kind of really explore a little bit about what's going on, and a lot of you who have been around a while, this looking forward might be more interesting than looking back. But for some people, knowing how we got where we are and where everything is, just all the different pieces of the puzzle here. So I'm going to be talking about things. I'm going to talk a little bit about my own history with the project first to kind of establish where things are. And by doing that, you'll get a sense of the history of the project itself. By the project, I mean MuseScore. And so let me just do that first. I mean, I don't want this to all be about me, but I do think it's important to understand maybe a little bit about how what I do fits in with everything else. So let's talk about this. What I'm going to do is I do have some slides that I'm going to refer to for myself to help me remember what it is that I want to say and be able to pull up some things for us to look at. So here's one thing for us to look at right here. Let me go ahead and repin my chat as well, so that now my chat will stay pinned while we talk. All right. So here we go. This is how my involvement with MuseScore started, this blog article that we're looking at. I no longer maintain this blog. I think I posted probably all of about 5 things ever in my life. Oh, it looks like maybe a little more than that. But shortly before MuseScore 1.0 came out, like a few months before, one of my students kind of turned me on to it and said, hey, you should check this out. And I did, and I became interested. And just before MuseScore 1 actually came out, while they were just deciding, all right, I think we're done with all this beta 0. Blah, blah, blah stuff. Let's really do a 1.0 release. And they did like a 3-week beta testing process, during which I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a project. I've got a commission coming up, a composition commission, and I'm going to just do it in MuseScore, and I'm coming from Finale. So I did that, and that was 2011 is when MuseScore 1 came out. And so I did this commission in MuseScore 1. It was a big project, and I learned a lot along the way, and learned a lot about what MuseScore could or couldn't do. Was very impressed with what it could do, saw a lot of promise for what was coming. Posted this article, and shortly after, the lead developers and the core team kind of contacted me and said, hey, we'd like to work with you some and have you do more stuff. So yeah, definitely the beard is the gray part here, right? If you look at me from here up, I still kind of look like that. Take the glasses off. But anyhow, so I got involved with the MuseScore project like right when 1.0 came out, is what I'm saying here. So that's one thing to be aware of. Another thing is then part of what that involvement entailed was me actually writing a book. And, I intended to have a physical copy of the book handy. But we've got a picture of it here. Nah, a picture's no good. Let's get the book. Get the book. So the physical book, Mastering MuseScore, came out alongside MuseScore 2. Maybe it came out a couple months after MuseScore 2. And this was in 2015. And this was because those same people, the core developers, there was a team of 3, Thomas, Nicola, and Werner. and they were the core team of people who kind of ran MuseScore at the time. And they had asked me, well, we'd really like to have this, nice book in English and all about how to use MuseScore, and had me write it, and they arranged for the publishing of it, and it was sort of a joint venture. So that was the birth of Mastering MuseScore as a name. It was the name of that book. I didn't really have a business associated with it or anything like that, but anyhow, that's where the name Mastering MuseScore came from. So then, that's 2015. 2017, let me actually just click this link here. 2017, I have to talk about a little bit here because this was a major turning point for both me and MuseScore. So I was teaching, and most of my income, most of my energies went into teaching, especially at a university, a couple different universities where I was teaching, and one in particular, University of Denver, is where most of my, I taught a couple classes there, and I had an office there, and also give me 1 second here. Oh, I get what's happening. This has started. That's why I keep hearing voices. I'm going, what the heck? All right, it's because I started a video, which I didn't mean to start. So I know there's some construction going on outside my office here, and I thought maybe it was that at first. So where was I? 2017, this teaching job I had at University of Denver. I mean, I was just an adjunct, but it was like, I had a number of responsibilities there. It was a big part of my life, and that job came to an end. They, decided, okay, we have new administration. We're going to get some new people in here, do some new stuff, and I had an opportunity to say, yes, I want to go along with these changes, or just say, no, I want to do something else. And that's what I did. I said, this is a perfectly good opportunity for me to just say, you know what, maybe my involvement with MuseScore is going to be my new thing. And I'm just going to make this into a career. So that was 2017. And at the time, I was trying to see what that was going to look like, talking to the three core guys in Europe about this. Unbeknownst to me, at the same time, is when they were talking to the folks from Ultimate Guitar about, some sort of merger sort of thing, because, this is not a secret or anything. MuseScore was having legal issues because of MuseScore.com and people posting copyrighted music there, and they were getting into all sorts of legal problems from that. And officially you weren't supposed to publish copyrighted works, but they had no way of really controlling that, and it was just getting out of hand, threats of lawsuits, etc. So Ultimate Guitar had licenses to allow people to actually upload copyrighted music, so they came in and kind of saved the day as far as that went. But it did mean some big changes. So 2017 is when kind of all these changes happened. And that all happened within the space of a few months. And as part of that was me deciding, all right, I'm going to build my own business, build my own thing around Mastering MuseScore. So it was May of 2018 that this actually launched. And so the first thing that happened was my very first MuseScore Café episode. So we're going to watch just a few seconds of it so you can again marvel at my young-looking face. Give you a little insight into my use of the program. So, anyhow, that was me in my very first episode of MuseScore Café, just talking about whatever I was going to talk about then. It was actually kind of a similar thing. I gave my story up until then, and I've got more story to tell now, but that was that first episode there. And also in conjunction with that, I launched my website. I launched the Mastering MuseScore School. So the Mastering MuseScore School is, that's where my online courses were housed, and still most of them are, although now I'm talking, I'm moving them to Circle, or at least some of them are on Circle. We'll be talking about that more. So this, the community website. So this was the school website, still is the school website, and the first thing that I did actually was a webinar. I did just a weekend. It was like an all day or a couple hours. I don't remember what it was, but it was a session in which I tried to show you everything I could about MuseScore in a relatively short period of time. And I'm actually planning on doing another one of these. It's going to kind of bring me a little bit full circle here. So anyhow, this also happened in May of 2018. So May of 2018 is when I launched the MuseScore Café. It's when I launched this webinar, and it's when I started building the Mastering MuseScore course, which then released later in the year. So, eventually there was the Mastering MuseScore course. And so the Mastering MuseScore course had all those lessons, and it's still available there in that form. But now, of course, there's also Mastering MuseScore 4. So I'm going to talk a little bit more, since this came up, about Ultimate Guitar. So Ultimate Guitar is a company that got started by publishing Guitar Tab. So they put Guitar Tab online for all sorts of pop songs, and they had all the same problems that MuseScore.com was having legally, in terms of, well, copyright owners saying, hey, you can't just post our music here on your website. That's we need to be paid for that. And usually when that happens, when people try to post stuff illegally online, they just take the stuff down to avoid lawsuits. The guy who runs Ultimate Guitar said, oh, well, all right, in that case, let me pay you. And the publishers were like shocked because no one had ever offered to pay them before. But they worked out a scheme in which they would figure out they would charge membership fees and distribute money and make all this stuff happen so that the copyright owners could actually be paid. And so Ultimate Guitar was a website for Guitar Tab. So they then basically merged with MuseScore so that MuseScore.com is also part of Ultimate Guitar. And the same license agreements then allow you to publish copyrighted music, and that's why you can publish your own version of say, whatever pop song, that Gordon Lightfoot song we were talking about last week. You could publish your own arrangement of that to MuseScore.com and not be sued, because MuseScore.com has license agreements with all sorts of different publishers, and they have that because Ultimate Guitar, the people who previously set that up for Ultimate Guitar, sets it up for MuseScore.com too. Now, eventually, then, instead of saying Ultimate Guitar is going to own MuseScore, they said, no, these are really separate things. Let's create a new entity called the Muse Group. And the Muse Group is now the head organization, and Ultimate Guitar and MuseScore are like separate entities within that. But there's other entities in this now too. That same organization also owns Audacity, which is a free open source audio editing software. So that's also part of Muse Group, as is StaffPad. StaffPad is music notation software for tablets. It started off for the Microsoft Surface, but now it also runs on iPads. I don't know if it runs on any Android tablets or not. But StaffPad has two big claims to fame. One is it does a handwriting recognition, and that's how you enter notes into it, and that was sort of its big selling point, although I don't hear people talk about that so much anymore, and I've always been a little skeptical of handwriting recognition as a way of entering notes. Seems to me it's slower to have to draw a note than to just type notes, and a little more error prone. But the other thing was people really were impressed by its playback features. It was developed by a professional orchestra musician, and it's the StaffPad playback system that eventually became what is now Muse Sounds. So anyhow, and there's other aspects to what Muse Group does also. So MuseScore is now kind of a part of this whole ecosystem that involves Ultimate Guitar, StaffPad, and other things as well. So I'm happy to see the comments about the webinar thing, because I'm going to, I'll talk about that later on here, because I want to talk about future stuff, and that is one of my ideas for the future. And by the way, as far as the signed copy of the book, yes, Colleen, someone I've known for quite a while, right? because we're both in Colorado and we run in some of the same circles. And one of the people she was studying jazz piano with is a great friend of mine. So yeah, Colorado Jazz Workshop. That's where one of the places where we've worked together. And Drew Morell, fantastic bassist and pianist and guitar and banjo player and other things, and is one day younger than me. So, just saying. Drew Morell is a great friend, mutual friend of ours. So, where am I going with all this? Well, I'm catching up to where we are so I can talk a little bit more about stuff. But I want to finish my little history lesson here by mentioning that in 2018, shortly after I put out that online course, MuseScore 3 came out. And this was directly a result of the new people coming on board from the Ultimate Guitar team. They were able to bring new programmers into the, because there was just Werner and Nicola and me and a few other volunteers working slowly on MuseScore 3. Excuse me. Working slowly on MuseScore 3, and it was taking a long time, probably would have been another year before MuseScore 3 came out. But the Ultimate Guitar people said, hey, we've got programmers here, let's bring them on board, let's get this thing out now. So MuseScore 3 came out in 2018, largely because of them. And I don't know if any of you remember this, but it was about as controversial as MuseScore 4. In other words, there were about as many people saying, no, I'm going to stick with MuseScore 2. MuseScore 3 is too different, too different and too new, too many things not quite working right. It was exactly the same things we hear about MuseScore 4 now. We heard about MuseScore 3. We heard that to some extent about MuseScore 2 when it came out also, but MuseScore 2 took a long time. You can see it was 4 years between 1 and 2, and then only 3 years between 2 and 3, and then it was another 4 years before MuseScore 4 came out, right? So anyhow, during that time, between MuseScore 3 and 4, is when I started putting out music courses, right? The basic music theory course, harmony and chord progressions course, eventually also the counterpoint course. But also, speaking of, kind of anniversaries, I mentioned that May, 5 years ago, was the birth of Mastering MuseScore based on the actual website, the school, and that webinar, and the cafe. So that was 5 years ago. 2 years ago this week is the anniversary of the Mastering MuseScore community, which is where you all are right now. You're all sitting here on the Mastering MuseScore community, right? So that was 2 years ago, May 2021, that launched. And yeah, this is what I'm going to be talking about as I talk about my own future. So I want to morph into talking about the present now. MuseScore 4 came out in December of 2022, along with my course, Mastering MuseScore 4. And just in case someone hasn't already signed up for this that's interested in learning more about Mastering MuseScore 4, here is the link to Mastering MuseScore 4 so you can sign up for the course. I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go on, but I want to talk more about MuseScore as it exists right now. I want to talk about what else you should know about, basically, is what I want to be talking about here. So as you presumably know, the current version is MuseScore 4. Specifically, it's 4.0.2. And there will be a 4.1 release coming out in a couple of months, and I'm going to talk about that shortly and talk about a little bit about what's going to be in it. Some things are not, things aren't set in stone, but we've got a pretty decent idea of what 4.1 might look like. So MuseScore 4, like previous versions, runs on Windows, runs on Mac OS, runs on Linux, and because it runs on Linux, it also runs on Chromebooks, which many of you know is what I'm actually running. Okay, glad that you were able to get running again. I always get scared when I see something stopped, but everything looks fine on my other screen too. So here are some things you should know about, because the overall organization of the MuseScore project has changed gradually over the years. So I want to make sure you all know where things are now. Okay? So first of all, the main support site for MuseScore itself is MuseScore.org, right? That is where you actually download the software from. If I click that link, you'll probably recognize this is where you would go to download the software from. Under the support menu, you'll see there is the forums. And the forums there are places where you ask questions and so forth. Now, many of you here are, obviously you're in the Mastering MuseScore community, and you know that in my course, there's also discussion spaces as well, and I'm here to answer questions. And so there is sort of this interesting relationship between what I do versus the kind of support you get on the forums. So let me try to address that a little bit. I am someone who knows MuseScore really well, right? I've been around for a long time, and I feel like I have a lot of expertise, a lot to offer. I've got the course, and I've got, I'm able to answer questions in my community, and I feel like, well, that's a valuable thing, and so a lot of people, want to be able to use that resource, and I'm happy to make that available, and we'll talk more about some additional things that might be coming in the future as far as that goes. But for most people who don't necessarily they're not in the Mastering MuseScore course, they don't know about my community, whatever, this forum here is a place where you can ask questions and people can answer, and this has been around for a long time. This, I've contributed immensely to this community over the years as well, although I'm not so active anymore because I'm doing things in my community. But this is a great place, if you're having problems with something, to have other people look at it and check it out. But what used to be the case is this was the website also to report bugs. And this is no longer the case anymore. I mean, you can say, I think I found a bug, and then describe it. And if someone then confirms it's a bug, you're going to go somewhere else. All right. So I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But I do want to just mention also that here on MuseScore.org is also the handbook. The handbook is the official documentation for MuseScore. And so I helped organize and write the handbook, and it very much parallels the design of my course deliberately. I wanted them to kind of go together well. So there's a lot of crossover in organization. The material in my course is video based, and this is all text based. But you can go to any given chapter here, like notation, expressive markings, and then click about hairpins, and you will learn all about hairpins here, right? So the handbook is a great resource for learning about MuseScore. One thing you will discover is there is not great, it's hard to find things in the handbook. That has always been the complaint with the handbook, and this really hasn't changed much. It is hard to find things in here. So one thing you might want to do, if you haven't done this already, is if you scroll down a little bit, notice it says download the handbook and create a PDF. You can click this link right here where it says printer-friendly version of the handbook, and it will basically generate a version of the handbook that's one long page. And now you can either print this thing out and have, something similar to my old book, or just use it to kind of search from. Like you want to find information about hairpins because you didn't know what chapter it was in. Use your browser search facility to say hairpin, and it will take you to all the places where the word hairpin shows up, and eventually one of those will actually be the appropriate chapter, the section. So anyhow, that's how you can find information this way. I'm not going to claim that's a great search facility, though. So if you haven't seen this already, I want to point out that in my course, you can now access a search facility for the handbook, and I'm going to talk about this in more detail going forward as well. But here in the discussion and support space, I can just type in hairpin here. Right at the top of the space, you'll see this pinned message, and type hairpin, and the first thing you'll see is an ad because this is Google search, and that's how they make their search available for free. But then it just it gives you the search results from searching the handbook, and then it'll take you straight to the appropriate page on hairpins. So that search facility is nice, right? It's really nice to have that search facility there. I'm going to talk more about search because there's some exciting things that I think will be coming pretty soon. By pretty soon, I mean within the next few months, but we'll see. So exciting things coming in the search in the search world. I'll just say that much for now. All right, I'm going to now go back to my slides and just talk a little bit more about where things are right now. So we've seen that that's where you download the software from. That's where the forums are. That's where the handbook is. So MuseScore.com. There's always a lot of confusion about MuseScore.com. And I've mentioned this. This is where you share music, right? This is where you upload sheet music, you download sheet music, and there's discussions and stuff here too. So MuseScore.com has been around since 2012, I think, is when it launched, or 20, maybe it launched. Yeah, I forget exactly when it launched, but it's been around quite a while. A searchable database with names of contributors to MuseScore.com. That I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. I'm not. See, the thing is, I have very little connection to MuseScore.com. It's run by that same company, but the development of MuseScore.com, organization of MuseScore.com is very separate from how MuseScore itself is organized. So MuseScore.com, you upload your scores, and again, there's license agreements that allow you to upload copyrighted scores. If you upload a copyrighted score and it happens to be from a publisher that doesn't have a license agreement with MuseScore.com, then eventually it will get noticed and it will get taken down. But it won't be like you're not in trouble. They'll just mark it private so that it can't be shared. But you can still have it there on MuseScore.com, which is nice because then you can access it. So I actually don't know the name of the person who, runs MuseScore.com, but I can tell you a little bit about the organization of the company in general. There's a guy named Martin Keary, who, is Twitter and YouTube handle Tantacruel. He is someone who has been in charge of the MuseScore product for some time now, and he became famous because he released some videos like kind of critiquing the user interfaces of different programs, including Sibelius and then MuseScore, and has a huge following. And it was his critique of MuseScore that interested the MuseScore team, and they said, hey, we should hire this guy. And so they actually hired him and then eventually put him in charge of MuseScore. So he is now like vice president, or I don't even know the technical term for it, but he is now in charge of both MuseScore itself and MuseScore.com. And so now there's a new person, and so I don't know who's in charge of just MuseScore.com, but there's a new person who's in charge of just MuseScore. And this is, when I say new, I mean as of just like within the last couple of weeks. His name is Bradley Kunda. He's not new to the company. He actually was very instrumental in putting a lot of the user interface designs together for MuseScore 4 and helping organize the handbook. So, but Bradley is now in charge of MuseScore itself. So day-to-day decision making, what features get in, who's, how long, when we're going to do stuff. So Bradley Kunda. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce his last name, but it's Kunda. I will just put that name in here. Bradley Kunda is the person in charge of MuseScore itself, and then Martin Keary is the one who's like the head of MuseScore and MuseScore.com. And then there's, more levels of management above him as well. But day-to-day stuff has been Martin for the last year or two, but Bradley is now going to be kind of the hands-on manager of MuseScore-related things. And then as far as development specifically is a guy named Vasily who's been around for several years, and he is still kind of the head developer. Bradley is a user interface design person, as was Martin. But their roles were managerial. Vasily is the head developer. So what else do I want to tell you? A bunch of things that I want to make sure that I tell you here. So let me just get back to the things that I wanted to tell you about. So also there's the mobile apps. They're run by the MuseScore.com team. So the mobile apps that run on your phone and on your iPad, Android, etc. These we all know do not support MuseScore 4 yet. When I say we all, I mean everyone associated with the MuseScore team knows they don't work with MuseScore 4 yet. And this is hopefully, well, it is going to change very soon. They will support MuseScore 4 soon. The history of the mobile apps is like a really interesting whole separate side thing that could be worth an entire other episode sometime, the state of the mobile apps. But basically they use some of the MuseScore source code to be able to understand MuseScore files, but then they have their own code for their user interface and the way that works as far as how open source stuff works and how you have to work with the Apple Store if you have open source software, because they've got their own agreements. It's really complicated. Anyhow, the mobile apps, the story with the mobile apps is going to be changing soon, and they will become more tightly integrated with MuseScore soon. So my background is my degree is in computer science. I have a bachelor's and master's degree in computer science. So I've contributed much code to MuseScore because it is open source. And when I published that blog article, I didn't really talk about my programming involvement with MuseScore, but during that whole time, during all those years when I was working on the book and all that, I was also fixing bugs, implementing new features, and so forth. So the other two things that you should know about with regard to MuseScore as it exists today is MuseHub. And this is a thing that's confusing people greatly. And so I do want to briefly just show you what this thing is and talk a little bit about it, because it is it's a point of confusion. So I have to start it funny because of my Chromebook setup here. Usually it's a bit simpler, but MuseHub is this program here that let's just get that there. That shows you all the different sounds available to download from MuseSounds. And also, if you're on Windows or Mac, you'll see that you can download MuseScore itself also. You can also download Audacity and some other things. But on Linux, those aren't available for download because the Linux download process is different. But this is where you get MuseSounds from. You'll see there's choir sounds, harp sound, and keys and strings and all these different things. So there's a couple things to know about MuseHub. So first of all, it's just an installer program. You install it, and then it installs MuseScore and it installs MuseSounds. And when you're done with it, you can definitely just close it. However, it's designed to run in the background and automatically update things. Tantacruel Martin is the same person. So that is the Tantacruel, as I said, that's the YouTube and Twitter handle for Martin Keary. So MuseHub is designed to run in the background and update your sounds automatically, because the sounds update fairly regularly. It's actually been a kind of a dry spell for the last month. There was one update, I think, on Friday or so, but it had been maybe 3-4 weeks since the previous update. But then, maybe every week or so, there's been an update to MuseSounds since MuseScore 4 came out. So if you have MuseHub installed and running, it can be installing that automatically in the background, which is kind of nice. There are definitely people who have concerns about background services running, and so I want to show you that if you go to this gear icon here, there's a thing that says Enable Community Acceleration. You can turn that off. That's basically, if you're familiar with the idea of a torrent, it's a way of downloading software by not overloading one server and having one server serve that software to everyone, but having everyone who's downloading the software also help defray the network cost of this by letting the software download from other machines also. So that's what a torrent is, and so this is basically that. So if you turn that off, then your computer won't be participating in that whole process, and then you can also turn off the automatically keep sounds up to date. I have that turned on. I have the torrent turned off. And you can set that up however you want. And then you can also simply just totally shut down MuseHub, although the details for how to do that are different on different systems. But I want you to know that that is just a program that is there to update sounds, and that is its function, and the sounds go into a folder that's like, a system folder, and so it's a system level utility here. So MuseHub generally confuses people, but that's what it is. It is a downloading program. It is a program to basically download sounds for you. All right. Returning to my slides, the last thing I want to talk about before I talk about future stuff is where to be reporting bugs. So all of you who are here in the Mastering MuseScore community, if you're in the Mastering MuseScore course, I have a space, that discussion and support space, where by all means, if you think you found a bug but aren't sure, you can post there and I can help confirm it. Or you can go to the MuseScore.org site. Right? If I go back to MuseScore.org and go to the forums, you can go to the support and bug reports forum, and if you think you found a problem, you post it here, and then if other people can confirm that yes, this is a real problem, then you will be redirected to the actual bug reporting system. So, Richard, your question is kind of beyond the scope of what I can talk about here about changing sounds. But basically, once you've updated, if you've installed MuseSounds, it should happen automatically. That's the short answer. The long answer is if you've done other things, you might need to do other things, and that's a whole other discussion. But feel free to ask about that in the course discussion space. But normally it just happens automatically. So the places where you're going to go to report bugs is GitHub. And this is all in in the community. I've posted these links at the top of all the relevant places here, but let me just put them in the chat. Also, this is GitHub for bugs, and that's the link to where the formal bug reports go. This is not a place to say, hey, something's funny, can you help me? No, that's what the forums are for. This is when, after posting to the forums or to the community of my community, and I've said, or someone else who knows these things says, yes, that is definitely a bug. It is not a bug that's already been reported. We can reproduce it. Please open an issue on GitHub. This is the link to do that. And you can find this link lots of other places also, or you can just do a web search. MuseScore, GitHub, issues. Those 3 words. MuseScore, you know that word already. GitHub, memorize that word, and issues. If you do a web search for those 3 terms, it'll take you right to that site. And that's where you will actually go to formally report any bugs once they've been confirmed, because the idea is they don't want that to become just a general support site for asking questions, which is more what the forum is. This is confirmed bug reports with really clear steps that then a developer can just look at that bug report and follow those steps, reproduce the bug, and then they can start on the fixing process. If the bug is about MuseHub specifically, there's a separate bug reporting system. So bugs with MuseHub, MuseHub support, and here they do welcome questions as well. So this is also just questions and as well as bug reports about MuseHub specifically. There's a link for that. Okay, so that's what all the moving parts are right now. Right? And then, also, of course, I have my 2 sites. There's the Mastering MuseScore school site, which is this one, right? And this, if you see something like this is my school site, which is on a service called Teachable. And then there's my community site. Whoops, that's not the community site. The community site is, right here. Community site is, of course, where you are now. So what I want to talk about now is some stuff about the future. Mostly, some about MuseScore and a little bit about my sites. So let's talk some about things coming in MuseScore, which I know a lot of you will be interested in. So let me get back to my slides. And So I've already talked about the core team, Martin. Oh, there's also a guy named Simon who's kind of the head of engraving related things. He actually worked for a music publisher, major music publisher, and is really an expert on engraving things, which is a huge issue. I mean, it's a huge aspect of MuseScore is how good the notation looks. And often people get the idea that MuseScore 4 has been all about the playback and Muse sounds, and yeah, there's that, and yes, there's the new UI, but to be honest, the single most exciting thing about MuseScore 4 is how much better the actual notation is, how much more professional lots of details are from an engraving perspective. Simon's been in charge of that, and that work is ongoing. Every release is going to have new engraving features, new engraving improvements to make the actual quality of the notation look better and better and better, and to make things that maybe currently require awkward workarounds become easier. So, before I talk about the features that are coming, these features are things that were just discussed in a meeting last week between like the core team, the people who are actually employed by the MuseScore company, and people like me who are the volunteer community people who have contributed to the development, contributed to support, etc. So the development community was a little bit shut out of MuseScore 4 because the core team was so busy getting everything they wanted into MuseScore 4. They were like, please, we don't want to take random submissions from outside of our core team while we're working on MuseScore 4. So it was kind of an awkward period where there was this disconnect between the core team and the community. And that wall has been taken down, and now they're welcoming pull requests and submissions from people in the community. And beyond that, they're even identifying, like, here's a feature. We've spec'd out exactly what we want it to look like. We would love someone in the community to just implement it. And they've also identified things where they're like, here is something where if you want to start designing something like this, we will support you. We will give you assistance in doing that as well. So they're really kind of working actively to improve the communication with the community. So some of the things that are coming engraving wise in MuseScore 4, there's two things that in 4.1 or 2, still not sure exactly what's going to make which release, but 4.1 is planned for like July. 4.2 is going to be probably also this year. So one of the things that they're looking at doing that I'm pretty sure they're going to try to do for 4.1 if they can, but it's not done yet, is this idea of what if you want a crescendo and a diminuendo on a single note? Well, that's kind of hard to do. I can take this hairpin and shorten it that way, just drag it. But if I want there to be another diminuendo starting here on beat 4, you can't do it, right? I mean, you can drag something in there and make it look like it starts there. You can add rests, invisible rests in another voice, and you can use all sorts of workarounds. Well, the plan is there will be a way to directly have hairpins and other lines basically snap to any beat you want. So that's one of the things that they're looking at doing in the short term, probably for 4.1, but nothing is set in stone, might be 4.2. One of the other things is, let me undo that, is for things, ornaments and things like trills. If I want to put, say, a trill on this note here, is there a trill marking in this palette? No, I've got to switch over to, I'll go to just View, Master Palettes, Ornaments, and add myself a trill. If you add a trill here, if you want there to be, to say, oh, I don't want that trill to go between D sharp and E natural, I want it to go between D sharp and F, or between E sharp, or I want to go, or you want it to trill down, or same for like mordants and things. There's been not a way to do that. There's been, again, awkward workarounds and things for doing ornaments with chromatic alterations to them, but there's not been a good way of just doing it, and that is coming also soon. Again, possibly 4.1, if not 4.2, and so this idea that you would be able to just put a flat sign on here and it will display and play back. Those are both things that are being worked on. So some other things that are coming. Playback continues. So engraving and playback, those are like the two big functions of MuseScore, right? So there's a number of things that they're working on having to do with alternate sound. So one of the things that's, again, probably in 4.1 is the ability to select which sound you want within a sound font. This is something that MuseScore had in the past and got lost temporarily with MuseScore 4.0. Will be coming back soon. So if you want to have your violin switch from the violin slow attack to the violin fast attack sound, or you want to you want to have a synthesizer instrument switch between a sawtooth wave and a sine wave versus the raindrop sound or whatever all the other synthesizer sounds are. There'll be controls for selecting individual sounds. You may have already seen that I've posted my own version of the sound font that has all those sounds already broken into separate files. So you can already do that today, but you'll be able to do that without my special zip file coming soon. But also coming at some point in the not distant future is things like in my MuseScore Café theme here, the guitar switches between this muted sound. If I play this, right, that's a muted sound. And the word mute here, you add from the palette and it creates that sound. And then when you want it open, like when it changes to open later, well, right here. There it changed to open, and you couldn't see it because I had scrolled off, but right there is the word open, right? So there's text elements for that for certain predefined things that are known to be needed, and they're supported for switching between pizzicato and arco. But what's coming, probably not for 4.1, although again nothing is settled, nothing's determined for sure, but what is coming soon is the ability to attach all sorts of other markings to change sounds on a dime like that. Say, oh, this note right here, I want the sound to change to this, without having to actually change instruments, which would change, the whole transposition and everything else. So the ability to change aspects of sound just by attaching a marking. So that's something being worked on and will be coming, as well as the idea of saying, you know what, if you're using a VST instrument, those of you who are familiar with VST instruments, there's things called key switches that allow you to switch from one sound to another, to attach these markings and say, this is what I want it to do. I need it to activate this key switch in the VST. All this kind of stuff is being planned, being worked on, so that you can activate all the different playback features that right now you might have to resort to, like using a digital audio workstation for or something like that. The idea is going to be you will not need to use digital audio workstations to do the things that currently you think you need to use or you do need to use them for. So those are a couple of things that are being worked on. That is going to be a longer term thing. Again, some of that's going to happen in 4.1, probably more will happen later. So another kind of big thing that doesn't sound big, but I know it is in a number of ways, has to do with how effects are handled. Those of you who have used MuseSounds, especially if you've used, say, the brass sounds, know that there is a certain amount of reverb applied by default that, frankly, it works for trumpets in an orchestra, because trumpets in an orchestra are far back behind the strings. They sound a little distant, and the orchestra plays in a big hall. It sounds great for that setting, but it sounds really weird to have the trumpet just like a solo trumpet with piano. It sounds like your trumpet's in the next room or something. It's not the right mix for that. It's certainly not the right mix for most jazz settings. There's any number of situations in which that reverb is too much and problematic. In addition, the way it's actually worked is each instrument has its own amount of reverb built in, and it's all being processed by its own reverb processor. And so every instrument in your score has its own separate reverb processor right now, and this is not very efficient. So they are redesigning how this whole reverb system works, and what's going to be the case, and I was hoping it would be there today for me to demo, but it might be another couple days or so before it's ready. There will be a new box here for what says aux send, and so those people who know about like how mixers, like real world mixers, are used, this is how you would take the output of your sound and run it into a reverb unit and then come back into the mixer. There will be a drop down here in which you can control how much reverb gets sent, how much reverb gets applied to every instrument, basically, and there will be just one reverb processor rather than a separate reverb processor for every instrument. And the idea is it's supposed to have a dramatic improvement on performance. So systems that maybe struggle to play large scores without hiccups now will supposedly be a much better job of it. And I was hoping that would be ready by today, but it's going to be sometime within the next couple of weeks that it will be ready. So it will also open up possibilities. So it'll be much better for performance. It'll also give you the ability to control how much reverb is on each instrument, including the ability to say, I want no reverb at all. So and that is almost certainly going to be in 4.1. It's one of the most important things they're wanting for 4.1. Also, when I mentioned VST instruments, right now I can't use VST instruments on this computer because on Linux, VST isn't supported, and it's not supported only because there's a technical complication with having, because most VST instruments have their own user interface. They pop up their own window to let you play with options. And the way that works wasn't working with MuseScore. And it's probably a fairly simple thing to fix, and this is one of the things they're putting out there and saying, we want to help, we want someone in the community who knows about this stuff to work on this, and we will help you get it done. So this is one of the areas where they are doing a specific outreach to the development community to try to get VST working in Linux. But also, those of you who are on Linux, if you do much with digital audio workstations, you know there's things also, other formats other than VST. And of course now I can't remember the name of the one that's, anyone know what the other big format is other than, it's got an L in it. LD2? Does that sound right? Linux, VST, LD, no, I forget what the thing is. But there's some other format that's common on Linux that I've never used, frankly, but that's in a similar category. They want to work with someone in the community who has Linux development experience to get that support happening. All right, let me return to my list of other things coming up. So those were kind of like the big ticket items that they're working on relatively short term. Some of the other things that are more longer term is just overall focus on both guitar and percussion. There's going to be new features coming over the coming year. I don't know how much is going to be in 4.1, maybe a little more in 4.2, a little more after that, of additional features for guitar to make notation for guitar go a little more smoothly. New features for tablature, new features for fretboard diagrams, new features for bends and so forth, as well as much more sophisticated playback. So, for instance, MuseSounds will have guitar component. It will also have percussion component. They're working on a new percussion, like if you've ever done like drum set notation and you want to design your own drum set and you want to control which note appears on which staff line, etc. That's all being redesigned, not for 4.1, but coming down the road. Also, integration with third-party hardware and software, things like what used to be Jack, which was a sort of Linux thing for communicating with digital audio workstations on Windows and Mac. There's other systems that are used, but there's more to it than that. There's things like just communicating with VSTs via key switches. They're really wanting long-term to be integrating much better with third-party hardware and software. They're also looking at some collaboration features, which are kind of interesting. The collaboration features would basically, they showed a demo of this, and it was kind of interesting. And so I can't show the demo. Eventually, the whole video is supposed to be available, but I don't think it is yet. At least I haven't seen it. But the idea would be that instead of just posting a score to MuseScore.com, it would be sort of a two-way communication where after you've posted it there, you could then click a button within MuseScore. It would take you right to the comments. You could comment within MuseScore.com and then access that comment from within MuseScore. So if you're collaborating with people, you would have that. Now, we're not talking Google Docs style real-time collaboration yet. Nothing like that is coming anytime soon. But just basically they want to eliminate email as the way of, hey, I'm working on this score. Let me send you my current copy of it, and you can email me your comments, etc. Right? They want to integrate better with MuseScore.com for that kind of collaboration. So they showed some slides of that looked interesting, but it's there's long term before I think that turns into anything really interesting. So automation so these last two features are, again, longer term features, not 4.1, but automation is the idea. And actually, Stephen, let me address this. There are certain systems, especially on Mac systems, where there is a delay between the playing of a note. So that LADSPA, the acronym I know is shorter. It's only like 3 letters long. But maybe it's just a shorter version of that. I don't know. So, Stephen, your thing about the delay, there are certain systems in which this is the case, and right now there's still not a great handle on this. So this is something to ask about, and on the forums or in my course discussion space, and we can try to run some experiments. I'll have you turn off the properties panel, see if that matters, if that changes anything, changing some settings on your computer. There's all sorts of different things that could be at play. But for me, it doesn't happen, right? LV2, that's the one. LV2. Thank you. I was thinking it started with an L, and I was thinking it had a 2 in the middle. I just couldn't remember the middle letter. So in any case, there are certain things that are known to possibly cause issues with that latency on some systems. And that has also been identified as something they really want to improve for MuseScore 4.1 if they can, but so far they can't reproduce the problems that you guys are seeing. So some people see these problems on an extreme basis. They're going to need help from the people who can reproduce this. So by all means, contact me offline, and we'll get you hooked up with whoever needs to understand what's going on with your system, because that is another push. Is hopefully when the whole aux and reverb stuff gets sorted out, some things will get faster, and this will then be something else that's left. So let me talk about what I was starting to say with automation. These are the last 2 comments here. Just the fact that, like, this crescendo here, I have no control over how fast that crescendo works, right? And you can tweak the individual velocity of each note to make that happen, but realistically, it's hard. You can't subtly shape the dynamics there without going through a lot of handstands, and some of those handstands were ripped out when they went from MuseScore 3 to 4 because they saw what they wanted to do instead, and they didn't want to continue to have to support the old system. So we're in this sort of awkward stage right now where doing that sort of fine-tuning that used to be hard in MuseScore 3 is now harder in MuseScore 4, or in some cases basically impossible. But what's coming is something that's going to be much better than has ever been the case before, where you basically just draw in a curve saying, hey, I want it to get softer here and then louder there, and you draw things in. And it won't just apply to dynamics. They'll also apply to other things. So there's all sorts of interesting stuff coming down the road there. Also, new features having to do with things like in an orchestra score, if you want to put 2 flutes on one staff or 4 horns on one staff, and then sometimes show them separately, sometimes show them together. Again, MuseScore currently supports that, kind of, but it's going to get better. So those are some of the things that they talked about in this meeting last week about things that are coming. Before I go, I just want to talk about a couple of things coming in my world of Mastering MuseScore. In particular, I mentioned the idea of a workshop, and that's something that's probably coming. Like I'll probably try to do it in the fall to coincide with the beginning of the school year, and it'll just be like a weekend thing where we do either a half day or details to be figured out, where basically we try to like teach as much as possible about here's how to do things in MuseScore and just get the thing done, right? And then the course. My course has got 160 something lessons in it, right? And each of them's like a 10-minute video. It's tons of material there. But, sometimes just sitting down in one afternoon and learning as much as you can is a great way to do things. So be expecting that. So I mentioned search and things coming there. I've seen a taste of this, and it's really exciting to me. I'm going to just flip back over to my community for a second. Do I need to actually show the community to do this? No, I really don't. But my course has all those videos in it, and it's got 100 and something videos, 166 lessons, right? And there's still a few more I will be adding over time, but that is the set now. I kind of finished uploading things this last week. But now finding information in here is, problematic also. If you want to know how to find information on hairpins, that's a little hard. Well, so I have not been someone who's had like a lot of excitement about AI, right? I have a healthy skepticism about AI. I've never found it to be useful in any way to me personally. Then there's, societal concerns about it. But there are things about it from a technological perspective that are interesting and potentially useful. And basically, a couple weeks ago, I was transformed from, I have no interest in that at all, to, I see exactly how I want to use this, and it's coming. And what it is each of these videos, first of all, AI technology is already in place, right? On Google, like on YouTube, if you upload a video to YouTube, it automatically transcribes it. Does it get every word exactly right? No, but you can get a transcript of your video automatically, right? I can come over here to one of my videos on setting up my score and press play on this thing. Click the CC button. Up your score. In this lesson, we're going to talk about how to set up your score in terms of choosing the instruments for it and some basic properties. And I can turn down my sound and look, it's captions. And I didn't have to do a dang thing. Those captions were generated automatically by YouTube, by Google, basically. So that you can also create those transcripts are there at any time from them. Stop now. But then the idea of making those transcripts searchable becomes really interesting, because then if you put in a search term like hairpins, it would be able to find all the videos in which the word hairpin appears. But then you bring AI to the next level there, and imagine like if you've ever played with ChatGPT, which is the big thing that we always hear about in as far as AI, the fact that you can type a question and it will search the net and find some answers. Well, ChatGPT did its searching 2 years ago, right? It finished searching in 2021. It can't tell you new information because it's kind of based on a set of what it was trained on. But that engine is capable of being trained on new data also. And it's possible to train it on your own data. So it will be possible to take ChatGPT or a similar chat engine and train it on my videos, so that you will be able to have a chat window in which you can type a question like, how do I add a hairpin in MuseScore? And it won't just send you to the right video. I mean, it'll do that too, but it'll also give you an answer. Say to add a hairpin, select a region and go to the dynamics palette and click the hairpin, right? It's going to basically use AI on my videos to give you an answer. Will the answer always be 100% correct? No, but it costs you nothing to find out, or it costs you nothing but the price of the course to find out. And it's going to give you, and I've tested it, it's capable of giving some pretty darn good answers, and then also send you to the video, and not just anywhere in the video, but to the right spot in the video where that was discussed. So this idea that you will be able to get basically online technical support 24/7 from an AI bot. That to me is actually the only thing I've ever seen about AI that's excited me at all ever in my life. And I've been in the computer science world since the 80s, right? So it's actually pretty exciting, and it's coming pretty soon. So this idea that you will be able to actually interact with a chat thing and get questions answered about how to do things, I think it's going to kind of revolutionize how you learn about using MuseScore. So anyhow, those are some things that I wanted to talk about. I talked about past, talked about the present, talked some about the future. That's my show. So I'm exhausted, so I'm going to play some music. And thank everyone again for being here. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the questions. And I'm really excited by everything that is happening, the things that are coming, what's possible in the world of music and music notation. It's a great time to be creating music with MuseScore, and I hope you all are as excited as me to be part of everything that's coming. And it's just a great time and great things ahead. So stick around. All right. So tomorrow, Music Masterclass, right? We'll be talking some about the things that we've been talking about as far as intervals and all. If you checked out, in basic music theory and in the cohort space there, I gave that exercise talking about coming up with melodies over that bass line. Got a couple people doing that already. Love it if some more people get more melodies in there. We can talk about those tomorrow. Allison, you got a question about sounds for early instruments, and there are VSTs available for those now, but one of the things also coming is eventually Muse Sounds will be opened up, and there will be third-party Muse Sounds also, so people will be able to create their own Muse Sounds for other instruments. But VST instruments already open up a lot of doors, and so that's already a great improvement in MuseScore 4. So, we'll be talking about that, and then next week we'll get on and start talking more about minor scales. So thanks again, everyone, and I will see you all next time.